But we all have two-toed sloths here. The three-toed sloths that you see that have the mask over their eyes and look like they're perpetually smiling all the time, those are the three-toed sloths.
Okay.
And their diet is a lot more sensitive, and so that's why we don't really have a whole lot of those in captivity. Yeah. It'd be similar to, owning a koala. You have to basically have a private jet to go back and forth to get you the eucalyptus leaves for them to eat.
That's all I got.
You still hungry, buddy? I found the baby bird up there in the barn. Well, biggest. I've got a bird over here.
Throw it up.
Yeah, you got it. He wants it. Well, I'm glad you found this appetite.
Yeah.
This morning, all he wanted was green beans. He turned his nose up at everything else. But the three-toed sloths, they mainly eat just the leaves of the sarcopia trees, which is what grows in the rainforest. And their diets don't really vary much from that. We're not able to manipulate that at all like we can with the two-toed sloths. There have been some people that have been trying to get some groves growing in Florida, but haven't been altogether successful with that yet, so they're still working on that. But hopefully if they can get those up and running, then we'll be able to, slowly integrate the three-toed sloths into captivity as well. And I'm talking about captivity and everything like it's common, and we've got a bunch of sloths that have that. But I use that term loosely, I would say, just because, his sloth Zero, the guy that we got both of our babies from, was an injured sloth that came from the rainforest that could not be returned back to the rainforest. So I'm saying in captivity, like we're going out and getting these sloths from the wild, and that's what a lot of people that watch our lives think. And they're like, no, you're not supposed to touch sloths. Why do you have sloths? Why are you holding sloths and things like that? Because in places like Costa Rica and Guatemala, they really have a big issue with the natives there and people that come off of the cruise ships that are wanting to interact with sloths that are wild. And it would be the difference between essentially having your house cat and going out and getting a feral cat off the street. You're going to have a totally different, interaction with that, and it would not work out great. And so the conservancy agencies that are in places like Costa Rica and Guatemala are really fighting a battle with the natives that will go out, and their goal is to find a baby sloth or a young sloth, even if it's off of the mother's back, to bring out to when a cruise ship docks.
So they can charge some money.
Exactly. They just set up a little quick roadside petting zoo. It's a way for them to make just a quick buck, and for a lot of people there, that's their way of life. And a lot of people that go on those cruise ships are just not aware of how they got those sloths or that they are wild animals. Oftentimes, if they're not able to find a baby sloth, they'll go out and find an adult sloth, and it may be a little bit more hesitant towards people, interacting with them, and they may try to bite. And in circumstances like that, they would pull the teeth of the sloth. In the wild, they also have moss and algae that lives on their back. It's basically a whole ecosystem with moths and everything that live in their fur. And obviously that doesn't look great in pictures, and so they'll dump them in a bucket of bleach and scrub all of that off, which is detrimental to their health. They rely on the moths that live in their fur for the protein and to provide them
It's
good.
like a symbiotic relationship.
Exactly. So the bacteria that they use to digest their food comes from the waste of the moth. And so if you disrupt things like that, and obviously pulling teeth, the sloth's life expectancy after an event like that is just a few days to maybe a week. So it's really detrimental, and our goal here with the sloths is to be able to educate the public, and that's why we do a lot of lives as well, is to let people know that, hey, if you book a cruise ship and you get off of one of these cruise ships and they present it really nicely, like it's it's this tame animal, but in reality it may just be really sick from them having it several days and using it to make some money. And you can imagine, getting a feral cat or something and keeping it, in a situation that it is totally uncomfortable with, being around people and stuff. At first it's going to be really fighting you, really angry, but then after several days, after maybe it's so scared it doesn't want to eat, it's slowly going to waste away into where it's not really active and not really trying to fight you anymore until it passes. So that's why the breeder of the two-toed sloths that we got both of them from is working on, it's basically like you know, the white rhino analogy, if we did not breed those in captivity, we would not have had them any longer.
Yeah.
And so sloths are not on their way towards extinction, but left to, you know, no captivity, breeding, or anything like that, they may get to that point. And so that's why they're working on those groves in Florida to be able to hopefully get the three-toed sloths in captivity as well. He never gets this hungry.
That's so funny.
But the thing about sloths is that they can eat ravishly, obviously,
Yeah.
as long as they're hungry. But as soon as they're not hungry and they feel like they are full, they don't have an issue turning away food. So I wish I had that internal system to tell me, because I mean, I could have a full course meal and still feel like I need a little sweet treat afterwards. But for them, you know, it already takes 30 days for everything in their digestive tract to be digested and go
That's like
through.
my bubble. My God,
Yeah.
that's so slow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so if they didn't have that and they continued to eat and eat and eat, yeah, it would back up and be bad
Yeah.
news.
So they don't get daily feedings? It's like weekly, or how often?
No,
do
they eat every day.
They
It's
eat.
just, you know, as they are hungry. So obviously as they expel energy and
So
as
it's
they
just the
go
right
throughout
amount that they
yeah,
need.
Yeah.
exactly.
Wow.
And their body all tells them how much and when they should
Right.
eat. And so they're on a system here where in the morning they get their breakfast hand-fed to them and everything.
Yeah.
And if they don't want their breakfast, we either leave it in there for them or wait until they come back out a little bit later in the day and we'll offer it to them then.
That's funny because I feel like a lot of animals in captivity are really prone to overeating, so it's not a problem for them because they just.
Nope.
Wow.
And if you think about it, they only go to the bathroom once a week or every 7 to 10 days. And so every day they eat about 10% of their entire body weight.
Oh my goodness.
And so they eat and eat and eat some more, eat a little bit more, and then eat again before they go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And when they do, it's a whole 1/3 of their entire body weight. And that is between both solids and liquids. So they wait to go pee until they come down to the base of the tree as well. And as you can see in his enclosure, he's got 2 trees that go all the way to the floor, but only one of the trees has shavings around it because that's the only tree that he will use to come down and use the bathroom.
That's his poop tree.
Yeah, and that is hardwired, instilled into them, even though they are generations upon generations removed from the rainforest, and they would have no clue what to do if they were to be put into a situation
Right.
like that,
Yeah.
because obviously they get their food hand-fed to them every day.
Yeah.
But it is still instilled into them to use one tree, the same side of the tree, into the same pile that they always do, because of the sloth-moth symbiotic relationship. So once a week when they come down to use the bathroom, those moths will come off into the poop. Not here, obviously, they don't have that, but the moths will come off into the poop and lay their larvae. The next week when they come back down, the larvae that are now moths will climb back up onto the sloth. But buddy,
You're eating so
are you
much.
so hungry? Hmm? You're not gonna be hungry for your dinner. Think of that. He says,
Oh,
"That's not-
no.
That's not what I want. You know
No,
exactly
he's
what
got
I
the good stuff.
want."
He's so gentle.
Yeah. That's all we got. You got no more of the good stuff. You gotta wait till dinner.
Go to the grocery store then.
That's it.
He says
That's all. I know. I know. Poor thing, you're so hungry.
And you can see how he's dangling from just his both back feet
Yeah.
right now. That he has the ability, he was
Yeah,
showing
alright,
off
whatever.
this morning by just holding on with one foot. And so he can withstand all of his body weight just on one of his legs. And they can do that from the moment they're born. So as soon as they are born, they are able to hold all of their body weight from just one leg. And so comparatively, they are about 3 times stronger than a person with their body size. Obviously, we probably win in a arm wrestling match, but if we were their size, they are much bigger. And so you think about an infant trying to hold up all of their body weight from one arm, it ain't gonna happen. And neither am I going to be able to hang, 22 years old, be able to hang there for even a minute. I don't think I could do it. And that's because their relaxed state is clamped in like this. And so for me, it takes work for me to close my fists like this and to try to hang all of my body weight like that. But for them, this is their relaxed state. So to actually have to open their claws up and like reach out for
Yeah.
you is their stress state. So that's what
Oh, wow.
requires the energy to be expelled. And so it is effortless for them to hang just like that. And so you can imagine hanging upside down like that all day, and even all the way upside down inverted when he's just hanging from his back feet. Everything is designed perfectly for that to work. So everywhere from his circulatory system to his digestive tract to the connective tissue that holds it all together is designed for him to be that way. And some scientists even speculate that sometimes Dash, if he gets curious, he'll start looking around, he'll turn his head all the way back and look at you upside down like that. And for us, if I did that, everything's upside down. But some scientists speculate that that's his right side up. Yeah, and so as they're hanging, everything is the right way, but if they were to fall onto the ground and be what would look natural to us, that would be their upside down.
Yeah.
Huh.
So sometimes scientists don't agree with that, but that's what a lot of them tend to say.
Yeah.
But there is no doubt that their circulatory system all has valves that can shut off and open as they need to be able to still supply all of the blood to their arms. If I leave my arm up like this for 10 minutes, it's going to go to sleep and all the blood's going to drain down. But they have a special circulatory system that allows the blood to still pump to their appendages, as well as not all flood to their head while they're hanging upside down like that. And then their digestive tract has one-way valves that only allows food to go down and not back up, so they can't vomit or regurgitate food. So you can think, he's hanging by his back feet, eating out of your hand. If I try to do a handstand and eat something, I don't think it's gonna go down or up in that scenario. But, so yeah, it's pretty amazing. And his ribs, so he's got a total of 46 ribs, which is double what we have.
Right.
And connected to all of those ribs are connective tissue that is interwound with his organs and his stomach and his intestines and everything that's in his abdominal cavity that holds it all there. And so when he holds it, goes upside down like that, it doesn't all rush to his, so it stays just where it's supposed to be. And that design actually allows him to be able to withstand falls from up to 100 feet in the air. So they can withstand the fall that high up. And that's because when they hit the ground, all of their intestines and organs and everything stay just where they're supposed to be. They don't hit the ground right after his body does. So for us, if we were to get into a car accident, obviously our head's gonna hit the steering wheel and then our brain's gonna hit the steering wheel. Everything sloshes right around inside of us, and that's what causes a lot of the damage. But for them, that's not an issue. Obviously, unless they were to land right on their head, then that probably would be some damage for them. But
what's their sleep schedule like? Are they night sleepers, day sleepers, nappers?
They're nappers. I mean, scientists used to think that there was upwards of 18 hours a day that they would sleep. And they would become more active at nighttime just because that's when a lot of other things are sleeping and not trying to come out and get them. And the cover of night gives them a little bit of coverage from like eagles and things that might swoop down and trying to get them. But they used to think 18 hours, but after doing a little bit more of research up close and personal with them, they realized that a lot of times they were thinking that they were sleeping by seeing them from the rainforest floor. They were actually awake and just hanging there chilling, so throughout the day, and Flash does that a lot. He'll curl all the way up where he's real close to the bar, but his eyes will still be open. He's still listening to everything that's going on around him, but if you're not looking at his eyes, you'd think he's asleep. But so they aren't like people, or we feel a lot of times like we have to constantly be doing something. If you sat me down in a chair for an hour, I'd get a little bit stir crazy. But
Switch holding it?
Sure.
thank you. Thank you, Dash. You wanna wake up? We'll scooch right in here and I'll put that around his foot there.
There you go. He says deep. Good hit.
Here we go.
How long have you been working here?
So I've only been here for about 3 weeks.
Oh, okay.
But long before that, I was watching their lives and figuring out all about the sloths and everything as well. So I'm wanting to become a doctor or a vet. And so with that, I applied to vet school last year and I got an interview, but I got declined. And so I'm hoping that with getting the exotic experience and everything, that'll help me out with my application. because I have a lot of small animal and large animal experience,
Yeah.
but the exotics is where I've been lacking, so I'm hoping that.
Are you trying to specialize in one of the?
I think more large animal is what I want to do. I want to be able to treat basically any animal that somebody brings to me that I'm licensed to treat, which would be pretty much everything except wildlife. You have to get special certifications to treat like wildlife and things, but yeah, I want to be able to know how to treat all of them. That's what vet school teaches you. You can specialize more so in small animal or large animal or exotics.
Rotations
Yeah,
and stuff
but
like that.
my dream would be to work in a clinic where I can be stationed at a home clinic where I can do small animal, like dogs and cats, but then if they were to get a call saying that somebody needed somebody to work on a horse, then I can go out to their farm and do that. So the large animal vet that I ride with, he has his own business for large animal, and he also works at a small animal clinic.
Yeah.
He could go full time with just the large animal, he'd stay so busy, but he likes to have both as well. But I don't think that I'm organized enough to be able to have my home business, because he has all of his own tools and everything, and he books for himself.
That sounds hard
and
to start your own practice.
yeah, and I ride with him. Sometimes he has people that'll volunteer to just get hours for vet school and stuff, but for the most part, it's him.
Yeah.
And he's got a wife, and now he's got a baby, so
Yeah.
it gets to be a lot, and a lot of people face a lot of burnout from it.
Right.
But yeah, I think I'll be okay as long as I can work somewhere where they can schedule it and say, hey, you want to go out and see a horse that's calling? I'll be like, yeah, where's it at? But you can see how dark and chocolatey of a color he is.
Oh yeah.
When Flash was out, he was a little bit more creamy.
Yeah.
As he gets older, he will start to grow in his adult hair. And you can see they virtually have no shed. They don't have a whole lot of hair that comes out at all. So it will slowly grow out into being more like, I would say, frosted tips, but it's like the inverse of frosted tips, like white and then black on the end, whatever that is. So where were you guys in from?
We're coming from Kansas City.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we're staying a week out in Chattanooga.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's trying to get into med school,
Yeah.
and then I do ultrasound. But
Okay.
I bred some snakes last year.
Mm-hmm.
We love exotics.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know how rough it can be. Because I have a couple friends too that are like applying to either PA school or vet school, and it's like, yeah, but it's the extracurriculars, it's the volunteering, it's the clinical experience, it's the.
And that's another thing is the volunteer hours. I didn't have a whole lot of those the last time I applied. So now every Monday when I'm off, I'm going to volunteer at the animal shelter that I'm close to. So it's a lot of work and effort that goes into it for sure, but it'll be worth it in the long run, I think.
I've been hearing more and more studies say vets are more in demand now than ever with people just on average waiting longer to have kids.
Yeah.
Well, we have a ton of pets, we got no kids.
Yes.
We definitely fit that trend.
And it's crazy how vet schools, especially UT, they're all about diversity and everything like that.
Yeah.
But then there's a shortage of men vets, and it's primarily overrun by white females that want to become veterinarians.
Huh.
And so I graduated with a guy that I was pretty close with him, and we had basically the same, stats on everything. Like we were all really close with the GPA, small animal. I had a little bit more small animal experience than he did, but we had about the same large animal, and we both, I got an interview, and he was a direct entry into the class of 2029. And I'm like, bro, how did you even, like, what is this? And so, but yeah. When we first got Dash, he was about 4 months old, and he was so small that he could not wrap his arms all the way around you. So he would have to sit on we would carry him around like this. We'd just have our arms up and have a little sloth hanging on our bicep there. But he's grown substantially since then, but still got a lot ahead of him. And Zoe, she's about 15 pounds, or 11 pounds. So she's almost caught up to what Flash is. Flash is about 15 pounds after he's gone to the bathroom. And so we're thinking that Zoe being 16 months, she's still got some growing left to do as well. So we think that Zoe's going to be even bigger than Flash is right now, because Flash is mature and he's pretty much full grown.
Yeah.
But she's still got some growing to do. So we think that with the breeder that we got, we don't know where Flash was bred, We just know the facility that we got him from.
Yeah.
And, you know, so we don't know what kind of diet that he had up until he was brought here. And so he may have just a little bit of a stunted growth because the two-toed sloths get much bigger than the three-toed sloths do.
Yeah.
And those are the ones we were talking about that have a more strict diet. But, so we're hoping that Zoe won't get so large that we won't be able to hold her anymore, but.
They hit maturity like 2 years, or is it a little farther than that?
Yeah, it's a little bit older than 2 years.
He sounds so cute when he's like smacking his gums. He's like,
Yeah. And when he opens and closes his mouth like that, you can almost hear a little bit of a squeak as he closes his mouth, and that's his canines rubbing together, and that helps to keep them sharp. I usually don't tell people that until they've been holding for a while and realize that he's not going to go after your jugular. But yeah, so those teeth are pretty sharp, and if they wanted to take a chunk out of somebody, they definitely could. So that's why we always tell people they have really poor eyesight. They're not coming at you because they're mean, but they have the abilities to do a little bit of damage. So
yeah, their eyes are so unique looking.
And how dilated they are, they stay dilated like that all the time, even when it's dark and light. And it's essentially like if you were to cut both of your hands together and look through it like that, they have basically no peripheral vision. And so especially the babies, when they're still getting used to everything and getting used to movement and what certain sounds are and things like that, he can be pretty startled. So when I first open up the towel there, I'll start talking to him as I'm opening it up and then wake up before I go moving around. That's what.
That way you don't just surprise them with all that.
A lot of the girls are a little bit scared of Dash because if they open it up and they don't talk to him first, he's like, but it's just because he doesn't know what's going on. But they can make a little bit of a hiss noise like that if they feel threatened. Other noises that they can make is that Zoe, we almost named Oof when she was a baby because we would go to put her down and go to walk away and she'd be going oof, 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 and reaching back up for us. And so they can make little whining noises like that as well as hissing. And then when the females go into heat, they let out this really loud screech that's like a D sharp. And all of the males that are in the area that can hear that will slowly start making their way to that tree, and whoever makes it there first will be the lucky winner. But after the mating process, they don't stick around for much long after that. The male will leave and he'll go back to find his own tree because they are very solitary animals in the wild. Obviously, these guys have been taught to be socialized with humans, but they basically have no desire to be with each other. Sometimes when Flash is out here, if we have Zoe's door open, he'll go over and start peering in just to see what's in there, if there's anybody in there, if they got any food. And Zoe, she gets kind of interested too, but as soon as we have them out here and they are able to interact, they're just like, no, I'm not interested in you. I'm just trying to find food, okay?
You're like, I'm gonna look for food over there, you can go over there.
And the mothers, when they have a baby, they don't have the ability to store milk like we do and like a lot of mammals do. And so for them, once the baby starts to suckle, the mother will produce milk and provide the milk, and there is no storage in that process. And so it's pretty energy consuming for them to have a baby with an already very low caloric content diet with the leaves that they eat. And so in the wild and in captivity, they don't tend to keep their babies for very long, just about 4 or 5 months, and then they're done. And it's not always that the mother will leave the baby. Sometimes if the baby is weaned, the mother has no more milk for them, they'll just leave themselves. And so I've never heard of any other animal that the baby is like.
Listen, I'm not finding anything over here. My sources run dry. I don't know.
Exactly.
I gotta think about me.
And it's like one baby that the mom makes it?
Yeah, sometimes they can have twins, but the mother doesn't have the means to provide for both, so it will just be the strongest one that will survive.
Sounds like they have to have it set up pretty nice to be like, all right, fine, guess I'll have a kid.
Yeah. Yeah, everything's gotta be just right, and Another kind of cool thing about sloths is that if they were to enter a time of stress, so if food was limited for whatever reason, they got into a tree that had basically no leaves that they wanted to eat, they go for the fresher ones. So if they've got all mature leaves that are on the tree, they're not going to want to eat that much. Or if the weather started to do something crazy and that stressed out their system, they can enter what's called torpor. A lot of people think of it as hibernation, but it's more so an adapted response to a time of stress that they can exit out of when they choose.
Wow.
And so it can't last for very long. It can last a few days or a few hours up to a couple days. But after that, if the stress was not to be taken away and the food source be provided or the temperature be regulated, they won't exit out of that and they will slowly just waste away. Which is why here it stays pretty much a constant 78 degrees. If it drops much below that, so if we were to leave one of the doors open outside and it dropped below 75, that's really a danger zone for them, because they can't regulate their own body temperature. Then we could come back into a not a live sloth. It can happen pretty quick for them, and that's something that we have to always make sure that we maintain and keep an eye on. And so we only open the doors to go outside when it's above 78 degrees outside, and we always make sure we watch the temperature and everything, make sure it's not going to drop before we leave. And so Kevin, the guy that's come in a few times, he's bad about checking the cameras after everybody's left just to make sure that everybody's doing okay, all the doors are closed, all the lights are off, everything looks just right. Because they can be very sensitive animals to things like that.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize that, and they'll see our lives and they're like, oh my gosh, they have sloths in their bedroom, I want a sloth. And it's like, no, this is not a bedroom.
Yeah.
We have had sloths for quite a while now.
Because they're all tropical, right? All
Yes.
the sloths are tropical now.
Yeah. And so they all live in the rainforest, so on the coast of like Guatemala and Costa Rica, Jamaica, and places like that. Not Jamaica.
Do they have a humidity requirement that they need?
Yes, it also has to stay very humid for them. And so Flash's room has behind you is a spigot that we attach the water hose to, and it will go up and mist his entire enclosure, and we do that once a day. Zoe's enclosure is a little bit new, and we don't have a misting system set up in there yet, but we have a hand mister that we go in and mist for a good 5 minutes or so a day. Make sure it stays enough, pretty humid in there and everything. He loves to take fat naps on people, that's for sure. Zoe, she likes to do this thing where she pretends like she's asleep. She'll curl up into a ball where that's usually her sleeping position, but then you look at her and she's got one eye open like, I'm not actually asleep.
You're hungry too, aren't you?
You just found it?
Yeah, he was up at the barn up there, and the owner, he was like, there's going to be like 50 that fall out of the nest this summer.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, then I'll have 50 of them.
Then I'll be busy.
Yeah.
Where are you trying to go?
I live by somewhere that used to have, they'd get the swallow nests,
Mhm.
you know. They're kind of ugly, right? They're just big. And people would knock them down.
Mhm.
So there'd always be like a whole bunch of like orphan
Yeah.
swallows all over.
I just feel bad for her. And like some people, they don't care. They'll just, get rid of them. It's like, I'll give it a chance. Like I won't prolong it if I notice that they're not doing good. But,
Did y'all get your time in?
are we good? Yeah, I think we got just a few minutes.
They're starting out here with the camels. They're going to go backwards on the tour. So if y'all want to join, y'all are part of the farm tour, right? Whole family, yeah.
I don't think we are. I'm sure we are.
Mom said you are.
Yeah.
So we are.
Mom said you were in here.
There you go.
I have a good place to climb up on.
Well, that was awesome.
Yeah.
thank you guys for coming and spending some time with me.
I wish you all the luck
Yeah,
on your
absolutely.
next
Have a good
cycle
day.
of playing.
Enjoy the farm tour.
They're right out back getting kisses back in.
Awesome.
Oh, my bad. I completely forgot about that. Here I am